Thank you for watching KTN News and welcome back. Now, today, President William Ruto has launched that task force that will go into looking the debt situation in the country. But even as that took place today, just what does the law say about that? Is it a process that ought to have allowed Kenyans to apply to it? We're having this discussion with the advocate of the High Court, that is Ishmael Nyaribo. Ishmael, today the president has launched that task force that has seen different members appointed into that. Does the president have powers to do that?
Yeah, I think the president, yes, he has powers to, legally and lawfully nominate the right people to a particular task force. This is more loose. It's not like a commission. He can come up and say he has a problem here and he can name a task force. The problem, Cecil, is how does he name it? And I think that is where the real bone of contention will lie. How does he do it? I mean, you know that it's hardly 3 days ago people have stormed into parliament. You've issued a speech that is not so nice to the people. Then you turn around, you say, now we shall abide by the citizens' demands. And then even before dust settles, you are saying, I will appoint so and so and so and so and so and so. I mean, I think Kenyans need time to think over this. Professionals need to think about what has happened. They need to, probably the president, in the circumstances, much as he has those powers to appoint a task force, it should have a certain, formula of probably people being asked, being invited to, give their names for those who are interested, and probably a proper professional approach is used. So that way then, citizens will see that indeed the president actually means good and is serious about it. But just quickly coming up and saying, I am appointing so and so. Now we have seen unconfirmed reports that my society may not be releasing our president to that committee. In the event that this is true, you see already the president embarrasses himself. And this reminds me of when former President Alan Gishui of the Law Society again was appointed by, I think, the former president into some office, and he was categorical. What is unconstitutional cannot have a bearing with us. So I think the president does not need to have a panic or does not need to try to firefight or manage people, but needs to be honest from the heart and say, we will appoint a task force.
And Ishmael, rightfully so, we formed the task force today. Here is a question of, we are trying to look at our debt situation in the country. And as of December 2023 now, the public debt in Kenya accumulated to roughly 11.1 trillion shillings. That is approximately $82.1 billion. Now, when the president got into office, he spoke hugely in terms of the debt situation in the country, the way we need to stop borrowing. But he has equally borrowed this debt. So as we get into forming this task force to find out where we are as a country, then what next? How do we then make sure that this is not another report on the shelves?
You see, so for some of us, we have deep respect for authority and honor for the president because he really represents the public. It's not really about him as an individual, but when you have to professionally assess what has happened since 2022, it comes out as though people came into office with some grudge and really wanted to square some issues they have. But it took them quite too long before they could realize that, hey, we are having the presidency, we are the people in power, let us simply lead. So because it was so clear that the president, William Ruto, said Uhuru Kenyatta is borrowing left, right, and center. And the money that is being borrowed or was being borrowed according to the president today, then he was DP and he was privy to quite a bit of this information. He said, this money is going to subsidies. This money is going into fake projects. Therefore, this money is going into the pockets. In fact, a lot of people who voted against Uhuru Kenyatta believed strongly that indeed Uhuru Kenyatta pocketed a lot of money of this country. True or false, now is a thing of the past. They refused to audit the 2022 elections. Probably we could have found out some mischief by the former president. So today then, what has happened? by the end of last year, I see on media that the president, the current government had borrowed 1.9, something like that, trillion. There's nothing wrong because governments must borrow. In fact, it only comes out to show that the deputy president then was complaining mischievously because he knows that governments must borrow. Now, the problem is not borrowing, Seso. The problem is now, okay, fine, now you have borrowed about $60 billion from China. The issue is, this is practical. It's a bag of money or it's money that goes into a bank and there are figures. Where is the money going? That is the question we have. This is not a question of high taxes. It's not a question of whether we should borrow or not. The question is, where is the money going? When you borrow, Assessor, you are thinking about our education system, our road system. You are thinking about agriculture. You are thinking about tourism. I mean, these are the services you are giving the citizens. But what is happening? Education, people are crying. Now you are promising to hire 46,000 JSS teachers, and then, you say the other day, you have again hired close to 60,000. I mean, where is the money going? Why are the doctors and interns on the street? When you talk about health and you go out there and you convince the IMF, the World Bank, and they agree to give you money, all the citizens are asking, by the way, it's not that you should not borrow, but if you are borrowing, let it be utilized. Yeah. And this is the major problem we have.
Yeah, and even in the presidential roundtable, that was one of the pertinent questions as to when will you form a body that would go into auditing these debt on where we are as a country. And today he's formed the task force, rightfully so. But even his government, the president has borrowed. So should we at least get a report on this is how much we've borrowed and we've spent it like this?
You see, the problem with our country, honestly, is intellectual manipulation. You know my name is Ishmael, but you again will come up and say, Ishmael is not the only one you are seeing there. There could be, might not be Ishmael. So our mental, intellectual manipulation of our country, actually starting from State House, with tremendous respect, because we have seen that. I mean, everybody is asking the president, why are you lying? I mean, for lack of another, for a better word, they are saying, but you said this, now you're saying this. So even when you are appointing this task force, why are you picking on our good president of the Law Society, for example? Or why are you picking, is it Nancy Onyango? I'm sorry, I don't know their professional background, so I'm not even saying they are not in any way qualified. My point is, why are you picking? I mean, we have the Auditor General. We have the Controller of Budget.
ISPAC.
We have the ISPAC, exactly. These are the guys who are always interacting with figures and money in the country. And then you're kind of leaving them aside because you want probably, you've seen some young, fearless president of the Law Society. You want to convince her to come. I think we must avoid, and if we have to save the country, this issue of, trying to manipulate people's moods or feelings, it will never take us anywhere. At least this president has actually, let's give him some credit where it is. He is the one who is in the moment of change of our country. That is something to him. He predicted, like he said in 2019, that the conversation will change. We want the conversation to change, but we cannot continue. Whether you are removing bribes and corruption and tribalism, you do not then bring manipulation of the young people so that again you kill their resolve. That really is unfair of the head of state. So maybe he doesn't see it that way, but I think definitely we are informed he watches this kind of information and opinion. I think that he should seriously consider being the first president to break corruption, break tribalism, all this bribery in our institutions, and they come out clean, not try to manage people, say, come, let's engage the president on space, but it's already stage managed. Kenyans will still realize, because Kenya is one of the more intelligent countries. If you look at our young people and the way they pick information from all over, they are informed. So they know that, okay, this is not a Twitter space or X space that was meant actually to engage us, but
Mm-hmm.
to kind of manage us. And that is really unfortunate.
And you talk about Kenyans reacting to this. We've seen that there are actually Kenyans who have given intention of going to court to challenge the formation of that task force. What could be some of the issues that you think they have picked up from this task force and how it has been formulated?
Well, court is a place for us to inquire, and it's just so soon I cannot pretend to exactly understand those who want to go to court what they will look at. We are really looking at the policy aspects and how it came up. Mm-hmm. In terms of legality, you see the president will have every right to actually pick names. Mm-hmm. The question would be, are these names qualified? Okay. That's one. Mm-hmm. Now, he's trying to cut on spending, austerity measures. He has broken that from the word go. I mean, because let me tell you, there are very intelligent civil servants in our country, that I know, because we have relatives who work in the government. We know there are many very honest and dedicated civil servants. They can be picked. NIS has all the names of extremely hardworking civil servants. Instead of picking, a whole task force, then they will bring flowers, they bring soda, they bring water, and then there's a car to drop you home, bring you back, all these things. Then you are still going to have Kenya, spend more money on where they should not spend. So in my view, probably guys will go to court to look at the, not competency necessarily, but the process used by the head of state to appoint the task force. Yeah.
And finally, Nyaribo, someone would ask, fine, you formed the task force. So what? What next?
Yeah, I think everybody knows that Kenyans are very quick to forget things and they do not follow up. In fact, if this task force is sworn in, I think everyone will be happy and merry and will go to do their own stuff. As I said, this particular president is both lucky and lives in a moment of change. He should be the one now to help people. Even point out to us that, hey, we don't want to take advantage of this situation. I want you to remember what I said. I am very skeptical when it comes to that because they waited until our young people had to storm parliament to implement some of the demands that, opposition has been pushing for throughout, but they were not able to come up and storm into parliament. I'm not saying I say so, and I should be understood in context. I'm not saying that we must storm parliament to be understood, but this is what it is. Sometimes it boils down to this for somebody to actually come up and do the right thing.
Ishmael Nyaribo is advocate of the High Court as he gives us his senses on the formation of that task force by President William Ruto today to look into the debt situation of the country. Definitely a conversation that will be moving forward. Asante sana wakili, and we look forward to more engagement on the same. Now, automotive solutions provider Sifao Motors Kenya has announced corporate identity change, but that will be coming after this short commercial break.